back to the BMG Loft today. Today we're going to be reviewing this guy right here. It's the Lauten Audio LA320 large diaphragm tube condenser that they are making now. That is their version of breaking into the, what I would call the project studio slash home studio, niche market for up and coming engineers, for engineers that just are building their home studios now that have with the way the market's been and in the music industry, things are shifting a different direction. And Lawton decided to get on board with entering. They have, I think, the LA120, 220, 320. One's a FET mic, one's the tube mic, and then they have like their pencil model that are all aimed at being entry, not necessarily entry level quality, because this microphone really is pretty neat, pretty awesome sounding. But to that either entry level musician slash engineer ready to go to the next level, and they, when you're starting out, you don't have a ton of money, and let's face it, really good gear costs a lot of money. So it's nice to see this kind of stuff coming onto the market, and we'll just talk about it here for a second. It's again, it's a tube design. Pulling it apart, because it's easy, you can just screw off the bottom and look inside. The circuit board is definitely better than average. The circuit board itself, the components are good. It's got high quality caps, resistors and stuff in it, and it has a Chinese 12AX7 tube. I don't know where it's sourced from, but the mic sounds great. And I'm not sure what the exact design of the capsule is. I can't remember. But I do know when you look at the spec sheet on it, it doesn't have your typical frequency curve on it for a large diaphragm condenser, tube condenser. And my early initial thoughts with that is, in putting it into use, is it really is a non-type microphone. And it has a smoothness about it that doesn't have a ton of air, but there's still a presence there that's really nice and can really sit well. And it sounds good. It really does. And it's totally different than from what I'm used to hearing. And it's nice. There's no peaky high upper mids. There's no excessively harsh top end. It's very smooth, and without the high pass engaged, it definitely has a very full bottom. And the 120 high pass filter on it can, depending on what the source is, take quite a bit out. But for me, it doesn't bother me that much. And on most vocals, I have no problem using a high pass that high, especially with as close as vocals have gotten. And especially with female singers, there's not much going on below 120 anyways. And it lends itself very well to female vocals, because it, that smooth upper mids and smooth top end that still allows for presence, but it's not going to pierce your ears off. It's very nice. The only thing, and again, at this price point, it's hard to find anything wrong when it sounds as good as it does. It's built well. The tube supply somewhere, I think it's back there. Everything's built well. Comes with a very nice case. The only thing is this shock mount has some excessive body resonance coming through it when you tap it or hit cables. It's a little higher than usual, but that's a simple fix. Something I do is I'll take the body off and put moon gel inside, stick it to the sides, and it absorbs that resonance, and it helps out a ton. So, for a $4.99 price tag and what you're getting, that's the only thing I've found with this mic so far that I would tweak if I could. And I'm not having to worry about it in this instance, because it was a simple couple dollar, well, not even a couple bucks, because the moon gel packs come with a bunch. So for $8, like I've done a ton of my microphones with it. So, it's for pennies, you're doing it. But, and the shock mount itself is a nice, it's sturdy. It locks in good. It doesn't feel cheap. There's just some resonance coming through here that's like in the 130 to 140 hertz range. That's a little excessive for me. So we'll set this down, and what I did here was track some acoustic guitars with it so you could hear it on an instrument, and we'll be testing it on other sources as well. Since they just sent me one, I went ahead and stacked the part and split them out left and right so you get a stereo image of it, the sound. Because for me, I'm not a mono acoustic guy. I love hearing things in stereo pairs. So this will kind of help create more of a stereo image of how you'll hear it. What we'll do is run it in the track flat, and then I put some light compression and a little bit of EQ on it as well. And the reason I put well, I mean, EQ is a necessary evil, and for certain things in the track, you're going to have to finesse it. For the certain things with a client, you're just going to have to do it, because sometimes they'll come back at you and you think you got it sounding great, and they're just not into it, and maybe you didn't EQ it, and you're going to have to whip out an EQ to resolve the issue. So what I've done here is how I like to EQ acoustics in a dense. It's very open at the front, but it gets very dense later on. I'll show you. I love seeing how microphones respond to EQ, because some microphones do not respond well to EQ. And so that's always, excuse me, a very important test for me, is that, and how they respond to compression as well, because especially on acoustic, I usually don't compress much. So let's just run a little bit of it with just, it was tracked straight. I have a Universal Apollo, and I just ran it straight into their clean pre's. No emulations, no anything. There's no compression, no EQ going down. This was straight mic'd at the 14th fret, roughly about a foot to a foot and a half back, with a little bit of an angle, typical single mic technique for acoustic. And we'll just listen to it in the track here. And I'll skip around a little bit too, from the quieter parts to the louder parts. Then we'll listen to it with my EQ test, and then with a little bit of light compression, you can hear how these microphones sound. So as you could hear there, very smooth presence, but yet, you hear the full spectrum very nicely. I did have the high cut on it since it was more of a close mic, and acoustics tend to have a little bit of that 150 hertz range, or a heavy boom, especially when you close mic. And it did the trick to just kind of take that edge off and help it sit better in the track. And the fullness is very nice with this microphone. The what it does to the upper mid range on acoustics, I really like. It's very different from what I usually do. If you want them to lay back in the mix, these microphones lend themselves to helping it lay back in the mix instead of it coming a little bit too forward. And especially when you start stacking acoustics, sometimes you could want them to sit back in the image a little bit. And these microphones did a really good job at that. But if you need it to poke through, this is where the EQ test comes in. We'll put my favorite EQ in, the mag EQ, and we'll run a little bit of that course there again, and hear how it just kind of sticks out just right. If that's what you're looking for a little bit more forwardness. So you can hear it. It really responded well to the EQ. It didn't get too hypey. It didn't get too clicky. It didn't get too stringy, gritty sounding. So this microphone responds very well to EQ. That's a good thing. Let's add just a little bit of compression to it to show you how just a little bit of glue can really bring this together and just make it exactly what you're looking for with very little work put into it. So there you can see it's setting the track very nicely, very focused sound, very full, but not too boomy. So on acoustic sources like acoustic guitar, this microphone is fantastic. I really do like it, and I definitely see it being very useful in my arsenal. Let's see. What would you guys like to see with this microphone? Please comment below and let me know what you'd like to see it tested on, and I'll be happy to try to get it done for you. If you've liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I really would appreciate it. And if you like the microphone, go check out Lauten Audio. Go check out their websites. They're doing some cool stuff, especially with this new entry level slash project studio market that they're breaking out into. It's really really good stuff. I'm glad to see more companies starting to do this kind of stuff and not necessarily. Again, you know, to do it, there's going to be certain things that you know you've got to you know not necessarily cheap out on. But there's going to be other alternatives that you know that's going to have to break it to for them to be able to sell it at such a price point. But it's great to see that they're not skipping out on the really important things that are uh, what really matter and count to the overall sound of these microphones and various other things that they're doing with their products. So again, check them out. Uh, Again, a comment below if you have anything specific you'd like to see from this video with these microphones. I'll be glad to do it. And until next time, guys, keep it grooving.